Hi guys, this is Georgia and welcome back to Reading Euphoria. Today's video I will be filming my reading wrap up of all of the books that I read last month. I only read 3 books in the month of April, but I did have a lot on to do with college rehearsals, etc. So I am quite proud of that. So I'm just going to give you a little review of all of the books that I read in the month of April, so I hope that you enjoy. So the first book that I read in April was The Librarian of Auschwitz by Heather Morris. This book, I can't even tell you how much I loved it. As I mentioned in my first video, I mentioned a little bit about it because I think that maybe I'd literally just finished reading it, I think. But this was amazing. So this book is based on the character of Lale, who was a Slovakian Jew during the Holocaust. He spent his time at Auschwitz and he was recruited to be the tattooer of the camp, which meant that every new Jew who came in, he had to be the ones to tattoo their numbers in ink on their arms. It obviously was a horrible job for him to have, but it is one of the most rememberable things about the Holocaust. So that was his job basically, and he helped a lot of prisoners that were in the camp. He managed to get hold of jewels, money, food, etc, etc, to help people who were ill. He helped them get medicines. He also swapped things for trading for food and stuff that he needed to survive on the inside. It was obviously down to him that a lot of them survived, and he did save a lot of lives. This book is also a love story, so it involves Lale meeting Gita, who is another prisoner in the camp. He sees her and spots her, and they form a relationship in the most hardest of times, basically, with the help of his rank as being a tattooer. This then helps him to be able to see Gita, and he gets to spend a lot more time with her because of his rank. This book is mainly set in Auschwitz, but he also does go to work in the other camp which is nearby called Birkenau. I think that's probably how you pronounce it. I really don't know. But anyway, so yeah, he does go across to the other camp to work there as well, but it is mainly based in Auschwitz and how they survived during it. But also, like I said, it is a true story. So for the author, if I just read the back of it, it says, "Let me tell you about Lale Sokolov. I want to tell you about the 87-year-old and the friendship we had for 4 years. We met just after his wife Gita died, and I visited him 2 to 3 times a week. Sometimes his story emerged piecemeal and in no chronological order, but it didn't matter. As I began to make sense of what he was telling me, its significance and importance began to dawn." So the fact that this is a true story is one of the things that I love most about it. The fact that the author spent, I think it was like 4 years, gathering all the information from Lale to then be able to then put this novel together. That is one of the things that's most hit home to me, is the fact that this actually did happen. And obviously I know that the Holocaust did happen, but the fact that we can read about it in a true story, but in a fiction as well, like we are literally there with them, is what is the most magical thing about it. Also, the relationship between Lale and Gita is so real and so powerful. The fact that they can't just go down the shops, and they can't just go for a walk, and they can't just see each other. The fact that they're in this camp and they're having to try and spend every minute that they can get with each other possible, which, like, it is impossible. They can't see each other all the time. They may get like a couple of minutes a day, or there's times when he goes away working and she doesn't see him for a whole week. And obviously in these conditions, she ends up thinking that he's dead, because that could easily happen. He could easily get killed and she will never see him again, but at the same time she will never find out. So their relationship is probably the most lovely part of this book, but it also is the most scary part, because the fact that they don't get to see each other and the fact that they're scared for their loved ones, the writer does make that so real. I can't actually recommend this book more. I read it in 2 days, which is pretty quick for me, to be fair, and I literally sat there and I cried at the end of it because it was amazing. The way that it's written is so beautiful, and the fact that, like I've said, it is a true story is the most powerful thing of all. So if you are interested in World War II, the Holocaust, even if you're not, I actually recommend that you pick this up, because that, even if you're not into it, which I am extremely interested in the World War II and all of the history behind it. So that's why I did pick it up, because it is perfect for me. But even if you're not interested in that, I would say still pick it up, because it is amazing, and it is amazing to learn what they went through. I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. Truly one of the best books that I've ever read. The next book that I read this month was The German Girl by Armando Lucas Correa. This book is also based in World War II and the cleansing of the Jews. So this book goes between two timelines, where we go from 1939, where the character of Hannah is having to leave her country because she is a Jew and she is no longer welcome there. We then go to 2014, where we then follow the character of Hannah, who is actually Hannah from 1939. It's her great niece, I think that's what it is. Yeah, Hannah's her great aunt, so yeah, great niece. So Hannah's best friend Leo is also in the same boat. Both of their families are trying to get them tickets onto the St. Louis, which is embarking for Cuba, which is taking, I think, about 900 passengers out of Germany who are all Jewish, or they're no longer welcome in Germany, so that they can escape the tragic fate that they would have to go through, basically. So like I've said, in 2014 we are also following the character of Anna. Anna's dad passed away in 9/11, and Anna's mum has kind of been shut away ever since, not really being a mother to Anna, to be honest, until one day when they receive a load of photographs from her great aunt who is still in Cuba. This then changes everything, basically, and her mum set off to go to Cuba to go and meet her great aunt. They spend 2 weeks out there and they learn a lot about each other. Anna is literally the spitting image of her aunt, which she noticed in the photographs of when her aunt is younger. They actually look exactly the same. So this book goes between Hannah crossing the Atlantic with her family and her best friend Leo to embark to Cuba. They are travelling for 2 weeks, and a lot happens on the boat, which you find out in the book. It also then crosses back to them when Anna is in 2014 and she's trying to plan this trip to then go and see her aunt in Cuba. You then get to the present day, which it then still goes between the character of Hannah and Anna, but this is when they're actually together. So they get to meet each other and they get to have a 2-week holiday together in Cuba. And then you basically get to see how their relationship forms, and you get to learn a lot more about what Hannah went through when she was having to leave her family and her old life behind in Germany. I love this book. I think that it was great to see a different part of not only just the concentration camps, but I actually didn't realise that people were being transported over to other countries by ship. So for me, this was a massive learning curve, to be honest. I loved how it changed between the different perspectives of the different years of the different characters. I loved that because you could actually get a sense of both of their stories, and then they then came together at the end to then meet. Love this book. I would recommend it to anyone who is interested in World War II. Not really the same with the Tattooist of Auschwitz. I feel like that this one you have to know a little bit more about and be interested in it, because otherwise I feel like that you'd get a little bit bored and you wouldn't really know what was going on. But it is also great if you want to learn something more about World War II, then I would definitely pick this up. I did really enjoy it, not as much as the Tattooist of Auschwitz, which, as you can probably tell, I did love that book, but I still did love this book and I still would recommend it to anyone who is interested in World War II. I gave this book about a 3.5 out of 5 stars. And the last book that I read in the month of April was I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson. This book was actually a reread. I think I read it late last year, but I did love it so much that I was like, I really wanted to pick it up again. This book follows the characters of Noah and Jude, who are twin siblings. It follows Noah at the age of 13 and it then goes to when Jude is 16. So it goes between the two different perspectives of when they're both at different ages. At 13, I think it is at 13 and a half or something like that, Noah is. He is very quiet, very shy, he gets bullied a lot of the time, and Jude is the more outgoing one out of the two. But then when it then goes to Jude's perspective of the story when they're 16, it's quite the opposite. So Noah is the one who's always out partying with his friends, drinking, and Jude is the one who is more staying inside and just painting. So the one thing that these twins have in common is that they are both very much into art. They both painted a lot when they were younger, and their mother influenced it a lot and she encouraged them to do it. They were both always very talented. I think at 13, Noah is still painting and drawing, and Jude isn't a lot, but then when she then gets to 16, she then gets more into it. She meets an artist who then helps her fulfill her passion, and she then gets more into it and she finds her love for it again. They are inseparable when they are younger. and then something happens, something changes between the ages, and when they're older they are no longer this close anymore. And the book is basically about finding out what happened, what changed between them, and then trying to sort that out and coming together at the end, and hopefully them being as close as they were. This book is amazing. The first time that I read it, I was, I think, like halfway through, and I was actually tempted to put it down because it was just very slow. I wasn't really getting a lot of the story in. It wasn't really interesting me that much, but I was like, I'll push through to the end because I heard a lot of hype about it, and I kind of wanted to see whether it got a lot better or whether it was just me that wasn't liking it. But I got to the end and I was like, I can't believe that I was about to put this down. So I thought that I'd read it again and see whether I loved it as much, and I really did. It was actually incredible. The relationship between Jude and Noah is something that she presents so well, and she writes beautifully. The fact that you can tell how close they were beforehand to then how close they're not anymore, and you want to know why, you want to know what's happened. So that's part of the story that is the most beautiful. You also discover their secrets, stuff that they don't know about each other, they then get to tell each other, so that is then what helps them then to become close again. If you want a nice contemporary read with a few twists and turns and finding out about these two characters who are so interesting and so lovely and compassionate people, then I would then definitely pick this up. I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars, even the second time. I loved it just as much. So that is it for this video. I hope that you've enjoyed this video basically. I hope that it's inspired you to maybe go and read 3 of the books that I've read this month. I'll also be putting the links for my Instagram, so if you could follow me, that would be amazing. Also, if you could like and subscribe to this video, that would be great. I really hope that you've enjoyed, and I hope that I've given you a bit of a insight into what the books are about. So I hope that you pick them up, and I hope that you love them just as much as I do.